What seemed like a normal flight turned into a powerful lesson. A flight attendant targets a quiet African passenger with disrespect. Unbeknownst to her, he is Ibrahim Traore, the president of Burkina Faso. As tensions rise mid-air, the truth is revealed after landing, leaving the entire crew and a French CEO in shock. This dramatic story highlights dignity, strength, and the moment when hidden power is finally seen by all. The sun had just begun to rise over the quiet airport. Inside the cold terminal, Ibrahim Traore waited calmly at gate 37. He didn't wear a suit, had no bodyguards, and carried nothing flashy. To most, he looked like any other traveler, but he was anything but ordinary. He preferred to travel privately and humbly. No cameras, no loud announcements. That's how he moved. He believed in staying grounded, blending in with people. He had just returned from a European diplomatic mission, discussing gold, sovereignty, and Africa's future. Now he simply wanted to go home. As he approached the Air France flight to Ouagadougou, he greeted an airport worker in French with a warm smile. "Bonjour." The worker smiled back, unaware of his true identity. Traore boarded the flight, nodded at the crew, and sat in business class, row 2A near the window. No one noticed, and that's how he liked it. Meanwhile, a French CEO, accustomed to red carpets and first-class privileges, arrived at the gate, expecting the same treatment. When told business class was full, he demanded an upgrade, claiming his importance in African business affairs. He was used to getting his way, and the airline scrambled to satisfy him. The senior flight attendant, Claire, tall and impeccably dressed, was called in. With a forced smile, she scanned the cabin. Her eyes locked onto Traore, sitting calmly in his seat. Dressed simply, he appeared to her as someone who didn't belong. Claire politely asked to see his boarding pass. He complied. The seat number was correct, but something inside her didn't sit right. Moments later, she returned with a more direct tone. "Sir, we may need to move you to accommodate another passenger. Would you mind relocating to economy? We will compensate you." Ibrahim, calm and quiet, raised an eyebrow. "Why me?" he asked. Claire replied vaguely, "Just a small adjustment for another guest." "A guest more important than me?" he questioned. She didn't respond. The other passengers glanced around, sensing discomfort, but no one intervened. Traore firmly replied, "No. I will remain in my seat." Claire was stunned. A man like him saying no? Especially an African man? She tried again, but Traore stood his ground. "If this is operational," he said, "then explain why I'm being asked to move and not anyone else." Frustrated, Claire walked away and began targeting other black men in business class. Her second mistake. Traore watched silently, his face composed, his mind sharp. Eventually, Claire pointed to a young African man and said, "You, sir. We need you to move to economy." The young man asked, "Why me?" She gave no answer, just took his boarding pass. That's when Ibrahim Traore stood up. "Enough," he said, his voice calm but heavy with authority. "You are making decisions based on skin, not on tickets. That's called discrimination." Claire, shaken, asked him to sit and not cause a scene. But his stare unsettled her. He didn't yell. He didn't reveal who he was. He simply sat back, composed. The flight continued, but tensions lingered. Claire brought water to Traore mid-flight, trying to mend things. No apology. No respect. Meanwhile, the CEO was being pampered, laughing and sipping champagne. He boasted that Burkina Faso was lucky to have him bringing order to chaos, completely unaware of the man he had insulted sitting just 2 rows away. An African nurse on board whispered to her neighbor, "That's our president. They don't even know who they're humiliating." As the plane began its descent into Ouagadougou, rows of black SUVs, military vehicles, and a presidential escort awaited on the tarmac. Whispers spread inside the cabin. "Are we landing in a war zone?" one passenger asked. "No, that's military protocol," someone replied. "Maybe someone important is arriving," another suggested. The CEO smirked. "Must be for me." Claire laughed, preparing to escort him ahead of others. But the moment the plane stopped, everything changed. Presidential guards lined up in full uniform. Behind them stood top ministers, defense, foreign affairs, and security, waiting like statues of power. Claire peeked through the window and gasped. "What is this?" she whispered. The CEO stood, smoothing his suit. "Clearly this is for me," he said. But before anyone could move, a tall officer boarded the aircraft. His boots echoed through the aisle. Every face turned as he stopped at seat 2A. He raised his hand in a crisp military salute. "Mura President. Welcome home." The entire cabin fell silent. Claire's eyes dropped. Her hands began to tremble. Ibrahim Traore slowly stood, calm, dignified, not a word spoken. The CEO stepped back, mouth agape. "President," he stammered. Traore gave a simple nod. Not angry, not proud. Just a man who no longer needed to explain himself. Another officer stepped in. "You two will come with us," he said coldly, looking directly at Claire and the CEO. Claire's voice cracked. "Wait, what? Why me?" "You are being detained for questioning," the officer replied. "You have publicly disrespected the head of state on national soil. That is a serious offense." Claire stammered, trying to explain. "No, this has to be a mistake. I was just doing my job." But no one listened. Traore stepped off the plane, immediately met by his people, guards, ministers, and a cheering crowd. Beyond the airport fence, cameras flashed. The truth was out. The man they judged by appearance was now seen for who he truly was. Back on the plane, Claire and the CEO were placed in handcuffs. Passengers watched in stunned silence as they were escorted down the steps, heads lowered, arrogance crushed. The tarmac blazed beneath the Burkina Faso sun, but all eyes were on the two who had once strutted with pride, now being led away in shame. Inside the terminal, President Ibrahim Traore stood before a small group of press. Calmly he spoke. "In Burkina Faso, we don't look at a man's skin to measure his worth. We respect dignity, humanity, and our people. That is the new Africa." The story spread like wildfire. Footage of the salute, the CEO being dragged away, social media exploded. The youth across the continent celebrated. Air France scrambled to control the damage, issuing a generic apology within 24 hours. But it wasn't enough. Outraged citizens called for boycotts. Claire, now in a detention center, broke down in tears during questioning. "I didn't know who he was," she sobbed. "I was just following procedures." The investigator replied coldly, "You didn't need to know who he was. You just needed to treat him like a human being." The moment on that plane became legend. A quiet man in a hoodie, a flight attendant with prejudice, a CEO blinded by pride, and a landing that changed everything. This story is a reminder that dignity knows no status, and respect is the foundation of humanity.